Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we're going to be playing another quick draft of Innistrad Crimson Vow. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. For our rare today, we have Audric Bloodcursed. Unfortunately, the mighty have fallen quite a bit in this set. Audric is an incredibly weak card that's honestly weaker than a lot of the commons in this pack. A 3-mana 3/3 that potentially creates a couple blood tokens. It's not really where it's at for a multicolored card, especially at rare, so Audric is just not what we're interested in here, but we do have a pretty solid uncommon and some sweet commons to choose from. The Ballista Watcher has some great activated abilities to just start machine gunning creatures off the board, especially at nighttime where you don't have to tap to use that ability. For the commons, we have Grandma over here, Kindly Ancestor, giving us a lot of life gain, which is super sweet. The Bloodcrazed Socialite being just the largest creature single-handedly, being able to attack as a 5/5 menace, and the Falconwrath Celebrants giving us a lot of blood tokens while providing us with a large menacing body as well. I'm partial to just the large menacing vampires that give us blood tokens. I like both of these quite a bit, and I think I just prefer the Bloodcrazed Socialite. I think that they just hit incredibly hard, incredibly quickly. Again, a 4-mana card that can start attacking as a 5/5 menace is just massive. I'm going to take the Bloodcrazed Socialite here as we move into pick 2. Alright, we've got a really nice uncommon to follow up. The Blood Tithe Harvester is more than powerful enough to start speculating on a second color. This is a 2-mana 3/2 that comes with a blood token and can sacrifice itself to give something -X/-X, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control. So a cheap creature with 3 power to be really aggressive on curve gives you a blood token to help smooth out your draws if you need to, and it's also a cheap little removal spell if you need to do that as well. This card sees tons of play in Standard, not just Limited, and for good reason. It's tremendously powerful, and we'll scoop it up. Pack 1, pick 3. The pick is going to be a little less obvious, a little less clear here, because we have 2 very good white removal spells. I'm particularly fond of Sigarda's Imprisonment because we can just play it for nice and cheap, whereas with Fierce Retribution sometimes we have to spend 6 mana on this one, but at least it does completely get the card off the board when you cast it. Both of those are pretty nice. Of course, Cleave, one of the most confusing mechanics ever. What this means is just 2 mana destroy target attacking creature, or 6 mana destroy any creature. It's basically just kicker but confusing. Not a huge fan of Cleave, to be honest. We do have a Voltairean Epicure on color as a common, which is pretty nice. A little 1/1 that's going to give us a blood token. Obviously, there's a lot of great ways to use those, not just smoothing out our draws, but also making Blood Tithe Harvester better or Bloodcrazed Socialite better. So I do think Epicure is a pretty solid choice here. But I'm probably going to go with the Vampire's Vengeance, the Mysterious Blood Illness. This is going to do 2 damage to each non-vampire creature and create a blood token. So it's a pretty narrow card. So it's a little bold to take it here, because if we don't end up in black-red vampires, it's obviously not going to be very good. But if we are in black-red vampires, this can sometimes be just a one-sided board wipe in the right matchup. So I'm going to take the Vampire's Vengeance, try to just really lock in on black-red vampires. Our second pick already really makes us want to do that. I'm just going to take more cards that are really, really streamlined for that particular archetype. Alright, pack 1, pick 4. The best card in the pack is on color, which is nice, but it is not really vampire-related. Still a great card. Fellstinger's a 3-mana 3/2 Death Touch with Exploit. Exploit just means you can sacrifice a creature when you play it. With this one, you can sacrifice a creature to have target player draw 2 cards and lose 2 life. So ideally with this, you're going to be sacrificing something like a Voltairean Epicure, your little 1-mana 1/1 to draw a couple cards, lose a couple life. Very good value play. The Death Touch is pretty sweet. The size of this card's body is just fine for 3 mana, 3-mana 3/2 Death Touch, but that added ability is very nice. So we'll take Fellstinger here. Blood Fountain and Lacerate Flesh are both also decent ways to get some blood tokens, get some value, and Edgar's Awakening is pretty fun. If you can discard it to a blood token, you can get decent value there as well. But Fellstinger, the most consistent, most powerful card from that pack. Alright, pack 1, pick 5. My favorite card in the pack is Drogskull Infantry in white, a 2-mana 2/2 that can replace itself with this nice aura from the graveyard, the Drogskull Armaments. Nice glowy spirit shield and everything, but these black commons are not that much worse than Drogskull Infantry. to stay on color here. They're not really on archetype. Both of them are zombies over vampires, but I think they're still both fine choices. I think I'm actually going to go for the Zombie Kraken, the Rot-Tide Gargantua here. Again, because both these cards are pretty much just as good. Usually I'd take the cheaper cards first, because you just have more room for cheaper cards in your deck. But here we want to have all of our cheap cards be vampires if possible, because of our Vampire's Vengeance that's going to be dealing 2 damage to all non-vampires. So if we have a 2-mana 2/2 zombie, then we play a Vampire's Vengeance later, we're just going to kill our own zombie. But if we have a 5/4 zombie, that will survive a Vampire's Vengeance. So I'll take the Gargantua here. Try to keep our 2-drops to almost exclusively vampires, but we could also use cards like Ragged Recluse that turn into 3 toughness creatures at 2 mana that can survive a Vampire's Vengeance. Alright, pick 6, we have a Persistent Specimen, which is pretty good with Exploit. So that is actually an option. We already have a Fellstinger and a Rot-Tide Gargantua. So it's just a fine card to sacrifice to those. But we have 2 other cards that are pretty sweet here. The Pointed Discussion can let us dig very far through our deck, drawing essentially 3 cards and discarding a card. So if we pick up any bombs or any cards we really need to dig for, this card is very sweet. And then there's also Wedding Invitation, which is pretty nice, especially in a vampire deck. You get to draw a card when you play this, so it just cycles and replaces itself immediately. Then it makes it very easy to win a race by giving you 1 completely unblockable attack, and if you're using it on a vampire, you're also giving that vampire lifelink during that attack. So if we use this on a Blood-Crazed Socialite, we're going to get a 10 life point swing, gaining 5 and dealing 5 to our opponents. So I actually like Wedding Invitation quite a bit for this kind of matchup, or this kind of deck. I'm going to scoop up the Wedding Invitation. Pack 1, pick 7, not a lot going on here. Flourishing Hunter, probably the best card in the pack. Chill of the Grave is also pretty good, but Ragged Recluse is pretty nice with a bunch of blood tokens in the deck, and we do have a few already. 3 different blood token producers, and this is a 2-drop that we can turn into a 3/3, so that will survive a Vampire's Vengeance, so pretty into Ragged Recluse here. Skulking Killer is an uncommon vampire, so it would theoretically work for our deck, but it is very, very inconsistent, and 90% of the time at least, it's just a 4-mana 4/2, which is a pretty bad deal because it just trades down. It's very hard to trigger its Enter the Battlefield effect. Alright, I'll pretty happily take a Voldaren Epicure here because I have 2 Exploit cards, and the little 1/1 body, the little 1/1 expendable creature is great with Exploit. Statuette is pretty good for different reasons if you want to just get really aggressive and start chipping away with this 3/3 haste by sacking bloods every turn. Could be pretty good, but I think Epicure is going better with what we've got so far because we have 2 pretty solid Exploit cards that we want some fodder for. So I'll take that Voldaren Epicure here. Alright, now we'll take another Rot-Tide Gargantua. It's that or Lacerate Flesh. I guess I don't have any removal yet, so we could do some filler removal. Sure, I'll take Lacerate Flesh, I guess. Not a big fan. But if I have 0 removal out of pack 1, let's grab our first at least. I don't love either of these cards, and they're both very likely to get cut, but I guess I'll take the Blood Token Synergy card. Now we'll take a Pyre Spawn filler card for the top end of the curve if we have nothing else. Actually pretty happy to have a copy of Blood Fountain in most black decks in this format. It's a pretty slow card, but it's tremendously large amount of value. You get some blood to drink, some delicious fruity blood, and then you get to reanimate some creatures from your grave. Well, you return them to your hand, you don't reanimate them back onto the board, but it's still very good value when in the late game you just pick up your best 2 creatures in grave. So I like Blood Fountain. Like having 1 copy of it. Last pick Pointed Discussion, I will absolutely play that. Alright, pack 2, pick 1 now. We don't have anything great for the vampire archetype, although Falconwrath Celebrants is pretty solid. In green, we have Ascendant Pack Leader. The problem is I'm so deep into black and red here. If I want to pivot towards green-red werewolves, not going to go super well, right? Because I only have Epicure, Vengeance, Lacerate Flesh, and Pyre Spawn. My red cards are actually pretty weak. My black cards are the stronger cards, so I could pivot maybe to green-black. Be a rough pivot towards red-green for this Child of the Pack. You know, Falconwrath Celebrants isn't that much worse than Pack Leader or Child of the Pack. They're definitely the strongest cards, but Celebrants is still quite strong. And it's going to give us our first really good red card for our black-red archetype. I think we're pretty committed here. Going to be kind of an on-rails draft ever since we scooped up that Blood Tithe Harvester. Other premium cards here are Diagraph Scavenger. That's the main competition for Celebrants if we're staying on theme. If I wasn't taking Scavenger or Celebrants, I think these other black and red cards are weak enough that that is when I would just speculate on another color with Pack Leader or Child of the Pack. Alright, Pack 2, pick 2. Going to be a pretty easy Hero's Downfall. This is just premium instant speed removal to scoop up, toss into the deck, and have some good interaction. I would love to wheel a Voldaren Epic here, or a Falconwrath Celebrants, or a Gluttonous Guest. If we don't wheel any of those, based on the bot's decisions last pack, I'm assuming we're going to get a last pick point of discussion again. Something like that. Alright, Pack 2, pick 3. Nothing great for black-red vampires. The best card in the pack is Lantern Bearer in blue. But Markov Purifier for black-white is also quite good. I don't think I have any life gain. I've got one with Wedding Invitation potentially giving me lifelink, so it doesn't look like Courier Bat's going to be particularly consistent, but if we can pick up some of the Gluttonous Guests, the 3-mana 1/4s that create a blood token, and make it so you gain life when you sacrifice blood tokens, then this card actually can end up being pretty good, whereas I don't think we're going to end up with a lot of high toughness stuff to make Catapult fodder good. And I already have one Lacerate Flesh, and it's kind of filler level removal. I don't want to end up with 1,000 copies of that. So I'll take Courier Bat here, but Purifier could be a choice too for potential splash. I'm going to go for the Courier Bat. Oh, that's right, we do have Ragged Recluse in the deck as well. If we pick up multiple copies of this, this is another way to trigger the Courier Bat's need for life gain, because you can drain your opponent for life with this. And that is a card we'd love to play at 2 mana. Yeah, the competition is between the Ragged Recluse and the Grisly Ritual here. I think I only have one 2-mana creature right now. I guess I have 2 of them. Still low enough that I think I'm going to take the Recluse over the Ritual, but the Ritual would be solid as well. You just need some removal in this format, even if it is like 6 mana. Pretty slow removal. I think I'm just going to take another 2-drop on curve. Grab a Ragged Recluse. Alright, Pack 2, pick 5. I guess we should be in blue. On the plus side, if I pivoted into red-green werewolves, it was not going to work out super well either, because now we're just seeing all blue cards. Yeah, and the quick drafts can be really hard to read sometimes. Let's take a point of discussion, copy number 2. Well, I guess it wasn't that red-green was super open, we just opened up cards for red-green. So I guess it's just blue is the open color in this draft pod by a lot. Green's also decently open, maybe, with that Flourishing Hunter there, but we'll just take a Reckless Impulse. Yeah, I guess it's just blue-green is the open color pair, because now we see a Syncopate as probably the best card in the pack, but Vile Spawn Spider is also pretty good for green-blue. And then Stitched Assistant is okay. Maybe it's just blue in general, because now there's just blue-white card in here. Yeah, I mean, I'll just slam that in the sideboard. There's nothing on color. Another Reckless Impulse. That's going to be the pick. I guess Bloody Betrayal's kind of okay, because you do get that blood token off of it, but still, it's just an active treason effect. I guess we have a couple ways to sacrifice things, potentially, with the Rot-Tide Gargantua. And the, what is the other exploit card? Fellstinger, that's right. But it's pretty hard to spend 3 mana for Betrayal and 5 mana for Gargantua to sack a thing, so I'll just take another Impulse for potential card draw. Another Epic here, triple Epic here. Yeah, that's probably better than double point of discussion, especially when I have 2 Impulse as well, so if I end up really wanting card draw, I can run those Impulses. We can get this Lacerate Flesh nice and late. We get the Grisly Ritual nice and late. Well, seeing pick 12... being a pack where there's Grisly Ritual, Lacerate Flesh, and Fear of Death in here, if this were a player draft, I would be pretty confident that we're just not opening up good black and red cards if we're going to see both of these pick 12. Right? Because like we saw this pack earlier, took the best black or red card to where these were like the only cards left in black or red, and then nobody took them. Like, these aren't super high picks or anything, but if somebody's in like a black-red deck, they would have scooped up one of these. And if somebody was in black, I would have really expected Ritual to get scooped up at some point by now. this late in the pack. So maybe we just haven't opened up anything great on color in those packs in the first place. Alright, pack 3, pick 1, completely garbage rare. What a change of fortune here. That's not a super fitting name because all of our rares, our second rare was pretty good, Ascendant Pack Leader, but Audric for our pack 1 rare and then Change of Fortune for our pack 3 rare, pretty horrific. We'll just take a Blood Crazed Socialite here, start beating people down with a semi-truck, playing our Transformers Magic the Gathering cards, Optimus Prime, fly in there and just run our opponent over. We're taking a Braid for pack 3, pick 2, very nice cheap removal. Our removal is still not the greatest in the deck. There's a Scavenger here, which is pretty good, but I'm going to take the premium instant speed cheap removal spell there. Now, this pack is poop. Yeah, 2 people are going to be happy with this pack. It's going to be the blue player and the green player. Everybody else is getting garbage. I guess I'll take a Sure Strike. I don't know. Pack 3, pick 4, third copy of Pointed Discussion. Another Courier Bat when my only life gain is Ragged Recluses. Doesn't feel great, but the only other options are a third Lacerate Flesh, a Catapult Fodder that won't work, so I'll just take a Courier Bat. Alright. Man, this has been an awkward draft. We just haven't seen a lot of great cards in general. Again, this pack is just poop. Cradle of Safety is the best card. It's kind of the only good card. Guess I'll scoop up one of those Bloody Betrayals. Another Ragged Recluse. We'll just play a full play set of the Recluse. I guess that's our third. We still need one more to find the full play set. Pick 7, Child of the Pack. Alright, well, a little sad to see that, but we've got Falconwrath Celebrants in here as well, which is excellent for us. A bunch of poop again. I'll just take a Vampire's Kiss because I'm lonely. Pick 9. Take another Blood Fountain, I suppose. We've got triple Epic here and only 2 exploit cards. I don't need the Persistent Specimen to make my exploit cards good. We wield the Diagraph Scavenger. Like stuff like that where I just wheel this Diagraph Scavenger when it was the only playable black card. Every single other drafter at the table saw this pack and didn't take a Diagraph Scavenger. Makes me feel like it's not really a draft pod where black and red are like super heavily contested, and more a draft pod where there's just not a lot of good black and red cards being opened up. But we've ended up with a solid deck here. I mean, I have 32 cards. I get to cut a lot of the filler stuff that I've ended up picking up. So I think this deck's going to look a lot better than it is in my head right now. Probably overstating how poorly the draft has gone. It's going to be a solid deck, probably maybe even a little above average. Obviously no bombs is always a pretty big bummer in this format, but out of what we could have had in this draft pod, it's probably like the second best deck we could have had. If I was prophetic, we could have had a pretty good red-green deck, because we just ended up getting past 2 Child of the Pack. But I don't think there were massive signals to push into red-green early on. It was just like we could have tried to go for that pivot. Pack 2, pick 1. Alright, so what do we want to cut here? Yeah, this deck looks fine. Probably just an average deck, but out of this draft spot again, I think it's probably the second best kind of deck we could have built. Average 3.0, we have 18 creatures, so we do want to cut 1 or 2 of those. We'll just cut Pyrespawn, Blood Servitor. Those are our most filler creatures by far. Kind of have to keep the rest in to keep that creature count at 16. Good enough for me. I love the Hero's Downfall. Vampire's Vengeance is pretty good in here. It's pretty bad with the Courier Bats. But that's about it. Everything else in the deck, well, no, it's bad with Felstinger. We have 3 cards in our deck that die to the Blood Illness. The Recluses don't die if we flip them. Feels good enough. Only 3 cards in the whole deck that die to that. I think I'm going to cut Reckless Impulse and keep Pointed Discussion, because not only is it card draw like the Impulse, but it's also Blood Token synergy for Blood Crazed Socialite, Blood Tithe Harvester, Triple Ragged Recluse, all of those cards that care about using our blood tokens in one way or the other. I usually like just playing 1 Blood Fountain, and I think it's going to be the same here. It's just pretty bad to draw multiple copies of Blood Fountain anytime early in the game. And that can just put you pretty far behind because they don't do anything till quite late. We do have Downfall, Abrade, Blood Illness, Grizzly Ritual. Probably cut one of these Lacerates. Maybe cut one of the Pointed Discussions because we don't really have anything to dig towards. So it's kind of just a value play. It's not really trying to find a bomb or anything, so we don't need to dig through our library. We'll go for one Pointed Discussion. I might even cut a second Lacerate Flesh, just have none of that. Just go Grizzly Ritual, Downfall, Abrade, Vampire's Vengeance for removal. I could cut both Courier Bats and put a Lacerate Flesh back in, because I only have 3 life gain cards. I guess I have 4. I have Scavenger as well, but it's going to be really hard. Again, this is going to be like a 7 mana synergy. 4 mana to play Scavenger, then 3 mana to play Courier Bat. I'm trying to trigger it there. The one way to do it consistently is Odious Witch attacks. That's probably good enough though, because I don't want to go really low on creatures. Yeah, I think I'll cut the Lacerate, keep the Grizzly Ritual, and the Vampire's Vengeance. I guess I have Wedding Invitation that can trigger Courier Bat as well. That could be helpful. Alright. Deck looks pretty reasonable. We are going to run a full 17 lands, despite being a little aggressive and a little bit low curve here, because we have a good amount of blood token production. This is the kind of deck in this format with so many blood tokens to discard cards and draw cards, we could even maybe justify running 18 lands. I think that was probably my biggest mistake in the last draft that we did, where we had our 7 mana Toxrill. So we had an incredible 7 mana Bomb, and we had tons of blood token production, but I still went with the default 17 lands there. I think I should have cut another non-land card, whatever our weakest non-land card was, to put an 18th land in there, because every single game we always ended up, by the end of the game, having like 5 extra blood tokens sitting around, so we could always like filter our way out of mana flood. But there were some games where we were missing some land drops in the early game, and that was really painful. So I think our last deck with the Toxrill in it definitely should have been 18 lands, but this deck does not have a Toxrill. This deck stops at 5, has 3 1 mana, 4 2 mana, 3 3 mana. I think we can just chill on 17 with this land, and we can chill at 17 lands with this deck and call it a deck there. Alright, here's a look at our final deck for today. This is going to be a black-red vampire / blood token sort of build. Did not manage to open up any solid rares today to build around, unfortunately, so just a pile of decent commons and uncommons on curve, and some good removal as you do for your general limited decks. Couple pretty good synergies in here. We have a lot of blood token production between Triple Epicure, Blood Tithe Harvester, Blood Crazed Socialites, and Falcon Wrath Celebrants, and a few of our non-creature spells, but we have several different ways to use those blood tokens. If we use a blood token to discard a card and draw a card, we get to flip our Ragged Recluses into Odious Witches. If we have a lot of blood tokens on board, we can use Blood Tithe Harvester as a very big removal spell. And if we don't need to do either of those synergies, we can just sacrifice the blood tokens to hit with our Blood Crazed Socialite, kind of our biggest threat, our biggest win condition, this 5/5 menace here, as long as we're sacking blood tokens. We do have the 2 Celebrants as well, though, as 4/4 menaces. Those are pretty good game enders as well. Some other synergies in the deck. We have 3 copies of Epicure that are helping us get blood tokens while putting in an expendable 1/1 body on the board. We can sacrifice to our Fellstinger or our Rot-Tide Gargantua for value. We also have a little bit of life gain to trigger these Courier Bats to make them very good cards. They're okay as just 3 mana 2/2 flyers, but if we can get that life gain trigger to return a creature from our grave to hand, they're very good. So we have 3 Ragged Recluses that will trigger life gain if they are flipped into Odious Witches, and 1 Wedding Invitation that we can use even if we sacrifice it to target like a Voldaren Epicure. We could lifelink 1 life from our opponent and then trigger a Courier Bat if we really need to. So those are all kind of the synergies for the deck. Other than that, as always, solid curve of creatures as you want, solid amount of removal as you want. But that's going to be the deck. So without further ado, let's get into the gameplay. Here we are for game one. Unfortunately, a monocolored hand. Looks like pretty much definitely a mulligan. We have one mana card, but even if I hit my second color, we don't have anything till turn 4. Multiple 5 mana cards and a 6 mana card. It's an incredibly slow hand, even if we hit the second color, and if we don't, we're doing absolutely nothing. Alright, this hand is way better. We've got Epicure into Harvester into a Courier Bat. The Courier Bat, of course, not going to be returning anything from Grave, but still going to be pretty good. I'm actually going to drop a Swamp here, because I don't actually think the Courier Bats are going to be all that exciting without lifelink, or without life gain, so I don't really need to drop them out immediately on turn 3. I have 2 ways to get blood tokens, so if I end up drawing better cards to play later in the game and not drawing lands, then I can discard some Courier Bats to look for lands with these blood tokens. Alright, we are just naturally going to hit land number 3 and 4, so it is a pretty dang good thing that I mulliganed, or not mulliganed, but put a land on bottom. Otherwise it'd be at 5 lands already. I guess we've got these blood tokens, so really can't get too hosed either way. But it has played out pretty well to not have to use these blood tokens yet, thanks to just dropping the third land from the opener. Alright, well, that is our third land here. Do I start cycling blood? I don't think so. I think I just jam out the Courier Bats. Really not a fan of our opponent dropping Spore Crawler on turn 3. Now we're going to have to trade a very solid creature like Blood Tithe Harvester or Courier Bat into it, and when we do, they get to draw a card. So that's really not good for us. We don't really get attacks in here unless I lose my Blood Harvester. It's a really bad trade there. I don't have good blocks unless I lose Bat or Harvester, which is also just a really good trade for our opponent. Yeah, Spore Crawler is just very good here. Yeah, we're just put into a pretty terrible trade either way. I guess if I attack, I'm going to end up trading Harvester into it. If I block, I'm going to end up trading Courier Bat into it, which isn't that much better for me, so I'll just trade the Harvester into it because that's what's going to happen anyway, and by doing it right now, I get to at least hit them for a damage while I do it, instead of if I just like declared the attack and then traded the 3/2 into it, or just passed the turn and traded the Bat into it. Either way there, we wouldn't get any damage in. Honored Heirloom, that's going to be very annoying for us. That is main deckable Graveyard Hate. They can exile stuff from our graveyard, so if we hit any blood fountains or anything like that, we're going to need to just discard those to blood tokens, because they can just exile whatever we try to return from our grave. Bloodcrazed Socialite was a phenomenal draw here. Now we have a big game-winning threat if our opponent can't get rid of that. Got enough blood tokens to hit them for 5 damage 3 turns in a row. Well, speaking of big game-ending threats, here is one of the bombs Innistrad Crimson Vow is known for. This is, what, a 5 mana 4/4 haste. Every time it attacks, deal 1 to a creature and a player. And then it turns into a 5/5 that deals 2 every time. We're probably dead. It's also a human, so Disciple's a 3/3. Yeah, we're just definitely dead. It's to attack, shoot us in the face, and kill our Epic here. It's got Menace, so I can't even block it later without a double block. I can trade my Socialite very far down into the Disciple, or just pray that I draw a Wedding Invitation or something to give the Socialite lifelink, get a 5 life point swing. Yeah, I mean, against this Arsonist, it feels like our only hope is to draw just like perfectly here and maybe hit a Wedding Invitation to give the Socialite lifelink, hit them for 5, gain 5, play the Courier Bat, bring something back from grave. Go from there, maybe outrace. It's an incredible long shot. Our only other option here is to maybe top deck removal for Arsonist immediately, but we didn't. We just hit a Recluse here. So I could play Recluse and Bats, but then I don't flip the Recluse. 8 life. This thing's going to shoot me in the face. Put me to 7 before damage is even dealt. Probably play Recluse and Bat here. Actually, if I don't flip Recluse, they just kill Recluse on the attack. So I kind of have to just play it and sack a blood here. Holding up the mountain because the only 1 mana cards in our deck are a single red mana. Alright, well, now I have a blocker big enough to maybe block Disciple without dying, although I guess Arsonist can just shoot it for 1 and then I block Disciple. But at least the Witch can still trade into Disciple if they play another human. Alright, I'm pretty okay with dying to a combat trick here, because the only way we're going to win this game is if they have Stone Cold Nothing regardless. Yeah, that's just like playing to our outs there. Our only hope is like, if they don't have a combat trick here, then maybe, again, that Wedding Invitation, our Crackback gains 6 life. And then we drop a Courier Bat. And then we could maybe outrace them, because again, we'd crack back for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We'd put them to 3 life, gain 6 total, play a Courier Bat, and have another blocker. That's like our only bet. If I play around the combat trick here, I can't even play around that one, because I would have blocked Disciple and still taken 7. So yeah, that's true. Any combat trick would just kill me anyway. But yeah, if I play around the combat trick and like block Disciple, and it's, I don't know, the +2/+2 one that wouldn't quite kill us, then if we lose Witch, we have no chance of winning the game anyway. Yeah, our only hope was to draw like an absolute mad lad. Didn't even get to give them Ligma. Alright, we'll move on into game number 2. Alright, here we are in game 2. We've got Epicure into Recluse, Socialite and Gargantua for later. Looks like a pretty good hand to me. Great start to the game and some great finishers. Opponent is on the play again. Starting off with a Forest into turn 1 Ascendant Pack Leader. That is a massive issue. It's a 2/1 and it keeps getting +1/+1 counters when they start playing bigger creatures. Well, I'm happy to have Epicure to start the game off, so we at least don't get hit by Pack Leader until they make it to 4 mana, but once they make it there, their 1-drop is trading into 3-drops and 4-drops and all that kind of stuff. Alright, here's a Ragged Recluse. Pass the turn. Not in love with them having a Vampire Slayer, but luckily all of the big, very powerful vampires have Menace as well, so they have to double block to kill them, which makes it so usually the Vampire Slayer is just killing vampires that would have died already anyway. I don't think it's actually the greatest. That being said, if I don't trade it here, even though I can flip the Recluse into an Odious Witch, they've got a 1/1 Death Toucher out now, so Recluse is just going to end up trading into that. Might be worth it. I don't know, I'll take the 2 here. Got a Diregraph Scavenger. Opponent is stuck on 2 mana, that's a start for us. If I flip the Recluse, I kind of have to discard a land here. I don't really want to discard anything else. I've got a 3/3 they can't really attack into. I'm not under that much pressure, though. I think I'm actually just going to point a discussion. Get some more cards, find some more expendable stuff to maybe discard before we go for the Recluse flip. Alright, they have hit land number 3. Send the Vampire Slayer in again. No blocks. I've gotten a Braid for the Death Toucher now, so we know that the Odious Witch can start getting in. Never mind, we're going to have to Braid the Welcoming Vampire. I think I need to do it right now before they get any potential card draw off of it, because that could really take over the game. They're just going to have a full grip at all times. The mountain of cards. Blood Fountain's slow enough to discard here? I don't think so. I probably just discard a creature that I can pick up with the Blood Fountain. Got the 5th mana for Gargantua, so we'll discard Scavenger. Although I could just scavenger away the vampire. I think I'm going to play Socialite, though. Stay aggressive. Yeah, I'm going to discard the scavenger here. They're on green-white. They're not going to have a lot of graveyard recursion. There's like Retrieve to pick up a creature and a non-creature permanent from their graveyard. But that's not a very heavily played card because there's not a lot of non-creature permanents to pick up, so it's usually just 3 mana, return 1 card from grave to hand. It's a pretty bad deal. Alright, ooh, we got a Courier Bat to go with the Odious Witch now? Actually really spicy. Just get a double trade for value. Just like trade the Witch into Scorpion, then pick it up and replay it. Seems like pretty fine value to me. This trainee is actually going to be kind of annoying. Going to turn into a 2/3 on the attack, but I can double block and only lose 1 creature. Yeah, and I've got Blood Fountain. I feel like I have enough 2-for-1 value sort of plays that I could trade with this Vampire Slayer here and still be fine. Still have Epicure to trade into Pack Leader, unless they put the trainee counters on it. Right. But, ooh, Mysterious Blood Illness. I have to wait till they try to buff the Snarling Wolf to do that. Which means I just pass the turn here. Because I need 3 mana up to use this Blood Illness, and I can't have that mana up if I do anything else. Yeah. They attack both, we block Snarling Wolf, they spend the mana to buff it, and then I cast Mysterious Blood Illness. So that the wolf dies. Yep. Ligma. We've got triple blood tokens now, which is nice. Actually, probably should have discarded one of them. I'm going to keep Gargantua again to sack Epicure for good value later. Start chipping in for 1 a turn. And now I'm going to not forget to sack these blood tokens. They must have some 4 or 5 mana cards in their hand now. They've got 3 mana. I guess we don't know for sure, because they had to buff Snarling Wolf last turn, so that kind of stopped them from playing anything else in their hand. Any 2 or 3 mana cards. Got enough lands to play this one here. I'll trade the Epicure up into the Servitor. Good enough. Get our 5/4 onto the board. Start hitting for 5 a turn with this Socialite. Yeah, this Socialite must be really chatty. If they're doing 5 damage a turn, gotta be a lot of mental damage. Opponent's just in the corner of the party trying to not be perceived, and the Socialite's coming in hot. Alright, we've got no life gain for this Courier Bat, so that's just not an option. I mean, it is an option, I can just play it, but I'm just going to Blood Fountain and play something else. Okay, 7 mana. I play a land here. Guess I could just play the other Courier Bat. Yeah, well, I guess I am going to play a Courier Bat then. If I have 7 mana, we play that, and then we Blood Fountain whatever we want back. Alright, and they're just going to scoop them up. They are very low on life, and just too low on mana. Did not hit the land drops they needed later in the game here. We are now going to be 1-1, I believe. Yes, my memory is horrible, but we are 1 win and 1 loss in as we move into game number 3. Here we are in game 3. This is a monocolored hand, but we have 2 Epicures for 2 blood tokens. Try to filter these mountains out. Dig deeper looking for swamps. Still feels pretty risky, but if we hit the swamp, having an Epic here to sack to a Fellstinger can really put us very far ahead in card advantage. So I'm going to keep the hand. We're on the draw as well, which is also helpful. That means we're going to get another card deep. Look a little bit further for lands. Alright, opponent hits us with the turn 1 Epicure. Very original opponent. Wow. I guess I'm on the draw, so I'm actually copying their play. Alright. Epicure trade. What is this? What is this? I can't resist. I mean, it's probably the right play as well, but I really can't resist just copying exactly what they're doing there. So funny. Do they have the Spider-Man meme as an emote in this game? They probably do. They're just pointing at each other. Well, that's rude. I don't have one of those in my hand. I do have one in the deck, I think. No, I have an Abrade. I have the other cheap removal spell. Yeah, that's super rude because I can't copy that play. Alright, well. Probably on Epic here. And dig a little with these blood. I definitely don't need 4 mountains. I'm actually going to dig right now. In case I hit an Abrade. Hit a swamp. Play the Epic here now. I do think I'm going to loot off of another land. There's no 1 mana play in my deck outside of Epicure that I would rather play. I guess there's a Blood Fountain in the deck, but I'm still going to play Epicure here to lead into the Fellstinger. One thing that's really nice in these Blood Token decks is that you get to main deck cards like the Mysterious Blood Illness, the Vampire's Vengeance. A lot easier. Because we're in the red-black Vampires mirror match. So if I draw Vampire's Vengeance, I can just discard it to draw a card, and we're good. Ballista Watcher. This is looking pretty bad for me. Opponent's got some pretty aggro stuff on the play. They had 1-drop, 2-drop removal spell, 4-drop on us. This could be pretty deadly. Point of discussion. Well, I'm already going to shoot myself in the face to draw a couple cards with a different spell, so I don't think that's particularly helpful. I guess I wait to play my land until I see what I draw here. Alright, well, I like the Celebrants for sure. This Watcher's gonna be a really big problem. Especially if it becomes a Ballista Wielder at night. Alright, Reckless Impulse into a land and a Ragged Recluse. They can play both of those and sack a Blood Token to flip the Recluse into a Witch. But they're going to play Markov Retribution instead. Buff their board and kill my Fellstinger. Yep. Go to 2 life now. Yeah, we're probably just dead. Too much solid removal with the curve here. Can't resolve and keep any blockers on board. I have to discard Point of Discussion now because I can't cast it without killing myself. And we're dead? I guess not technically dead yet, but there's no shot at victory, because Celebrants means I just die. But if I play Recluse Courier Bat, not only am I not picking anything up with the bat, but my opponent can just like Ballista Watcher the Recluse if they want. Or they could just attack with both and I'm forced into a trade and a chump block on the Ballista Watcher. Either way, I'm losing one of my creatures to Ballista Watcher without without even trading. Yeah, they could probably just play it slow here. Play a Recluse, flip a Recluse with the Blood token, and kill our Ragged Recluse. Yeah. That's going to be too slow. We need to have 3 blockers up. We can't possibly do that unless I have 2 Epicure. I guess I do have 2 Epicure in Grave. I'm 1 mana off from that, though. I'd have to spend 5 mana to play and sack the Blood Fountain. So I need 7 mana to pick up both Epicures and play both. Which I can't do, which means I'm dead no matter what I do. I can only play 1 blocker here. Yep. That's going to be game. Just some solid beats from the aggro vampire deck from our opponent on the play. Here we are now for game 4. Pretty slow hand, but I have an Abrade to protect us from a particularly powerful cheap creature, like a 2 mana 3/2 that we got absolutely steamrolled by last game. I'm gonna just play a no value Courier Bat. It's still a 2/2 flyer, still gets in there evasively. That is a 3/1. That's gonna be painful. They can even just discard a card to flicker it to save it from my removal spell. So if I play a Braid, it's gonna be a 2 mana instant, target opponent discards a card. Pretty bad deal. Hero's Downfall is the draw. Hitting all the removal this game would have been super helpful last game, but it should be pretty good here as well. Kind of just never a horrible time to draw some solid removal spells. I mean, I suppose none of them are great against the Fleeting Spirit again because of that discard effect, but they should be good throughout the game. I'm actually, with a Blood Fountain on the board, I'm pretty okay with just trading the Courier Bat into this. Like, if they don't want to lose the Fleeting Spirit, they have to spend a combat trick or just discard a card and not kill the bat. So we are going to get a combat trick out of the way. Mist Land drop here is pretty devastating. Yeah, we really wanted to be socializing. I have a Braid for only 2 mana, so I can go ahead and discard the 6 mana card, try and find the land, see if we can still play a land this turn. We can, alright. But didn't get to play it without tapping a mana, so I don't get to play Socialite this turn. Alright, I think it's probably okay to try to Abrade the Spirit now. Because now, even if they discard a card, I'm making them discard a card and preventing 3 damage. So now it's like a 2 mana instant. You gain 3 life and target opponent discards a card, which is a little bit better. Alright, they discard a Drogskull Armaments. Very much not a fan of that. Because that they can put on a creature, give something +2/+2. Then they have a Bloodcrazed Socialite follow-up. That card is horrifying. Probably like to just Hero's Downfall it. I guess I could wait. They might put the armaments on it as well. I am at 20. I need 5 lands for Gargantua anyway, so I do think I play a land this turn. I'll just play my own Socialite. And we'll see if we get them to slap the aura onto something, and then we can Hero's Downfall next turn. Don't really want to Gargantua here, because if I can hit one of my Epicures or something, it'll be very good later. Let's see what they've got. Sigarda's Imprisonment, lock down the Bloodcrazed Socialite. And they're just going to hit us for 6. Alright, well, Gargantua just got significantly better. Blood Illness is okay. Kill the Fleeting Spirit, unless they discard a card. I think Gargantua's just better here. very, very good against pacifism removal. Because since Socialite's already useless, now we get to kill one of their creatures without really losing a creature. So that made this play pretty good. They probably sacked the Fleeting Spirit. Yeah, I was going to say, I think Socialite's a little stronger. Plus now I have a Gargantua that can block that, but can't block the giant menacing threat. Alright, they have gone for the armaments, so now we get the armaments and the Socialite out of the way with Hero's Downfall. They have went ahead and sacked the blood token, so we're dead in 2 swings to that. But let's go ahead and just downfall the Socialite before they untap and have mana up for Adamant Will #2 or anything to give indestructibility. Alright, they're on black-white, so I'm not going to play around any haste or flash creatures. There is a flash creature in white, but it's mythic rare. Concealing Curtains, well, there goes Ligma. Never mind, they did not flip the curtains yet. So we do get to just Vampire's Vengeance away the Shield Basher. Not the curtains, though. We just go boop. Boop the Shield Basher. We've got 2 blood tokens here to cycle lands out of the way. Got a 4 mana Reanimate. Or a 4 mana Graveyard Recursion card on board, and I have a 6 mana card in the deck still. Wait, no, I've already discarded the 6 mana card. Maybe I keep both these in hand. I feel like there's value, though, in double spelling later. I'm going to play one of these. I am not going to hold up a blocker, because this turns into a menace creature. A menacing 3/4. And I'm also not going to use the blood tokens right now, because I want them to just see an empty hand with the Revealing Eyes. So they don't get to make me discard anything. Alright, Fleeting Spirit is the follow-up play. Alright, we gotta find something here, or we're gonna be dead next turn. I guess I can block there, but I'll die to removal still. Okay, Mountain is not something. What about the next card? Bloodcrazed Socialite, that is a blocker. No, Ragged Recluse after I used all my blood tokens. Little sad, but that means I'll have 2 blockers out, so they have to have 2 removal spells to kill me. If they have a combat trick on Revealing Eye, I'm pretty dead. Do I attack with Gargantua or hold off? If I hold off and I can keep Socialite on board, I can get a big lifelinking swing. It's really close. But I think I'm going to hold off here and play it really safe. Because I think I have a solid enough follow-up, especially with a Blood Fountain coming up, that if I can just definitely survive, I don't have to get really aggro and try to just kill them in 2 Gargantua swings. So if I attack with Gargantua, and then they just attack with both creatures and have 1 combat trick, I'm dead. Right, because they attack with both creatures, I can double block Eye or block Spirit, but with only 2 blockers, I can only block one of the 2. And yeah, I'm dead to any combat trick in the book. Now they had to have removal and combat trick to kill me here. So we'll see if they do. They're going to exile the Ragged Recluse. 2 cards in hand. Alright, they had removal and combat trick. Not much we can do there. Just all the gas in the end. Close to stabilizing, but they hit straight gas. I mean, they stopped at 5 lands on curve. Alright. Good beats. played it as safe as I could there on that last turn. And generally throughout the game too, I think, because again, I like kind of just had to attack with Gargantua earlier because this thing has menace regardless. So yeah, I'm just dead. We only get lifelink off of Wedding Invitation if it's targeting a vampire, so that's why we didn't do it any time earlier. Alright, 1 and 3 it is. Some good beats today from Innistrad at Crimson Vow. Just some couple pretty nasty curve outs on us. Couple pretty spooky rares like Revealing Eye, and that Mythic rare was way worse for us. The Arsonist thing, that was like there was no shot. Revealing Eye, very powerful rare, stronger than anything we have in our deck, but not like a Mega Bomb or anything. That game was more winnable. They just had really good follow through with it as well. Alright, not much we can do there. Again, I think this deck was solid. I don't think it was great. The biggest issue with the deck is that there's just not a lot of single-handedly incredibly powerful cards in it, like Arsonist or Revealing Eye or anything like that. Other than that, the biggest issues that we had were just being on the play against really nice curve outs. Our 2 losses that weren't to Arsonist, our opponents... I guess our final opponent didn't curve out on us that badly. But the red-black mirror match, I mean, our opponent went 1-drop, 2-drop, removal spell to clear the path, 4-drop, removal spell to clear the path and play a creature, just dumped things out consistently the whole game. And then yeah, our final opponent, it was the same thing. They just had a decently aggressive start with the 2-mana 3/1 and just never ran out of gas. They drew 5 lands the whole game, so definitely able to keep the pressure on us there. It's going to be very hard to come back. We got close, got them down to 10 with a Wedding Invitation on board. If we could have survived, you know, 1 more turn, we would have had a big life-linking unblockable attack to put them down to like 5. And of course we had the Blood Fountain there waiting for late game. So that if we could grind out the game longer, get to a position where the board state was stable, we could definitely overwhelm them with card advantage, but just couldn't quite make it there. Again, I think it's mostly just some bad beats today, some good beats today. I don't think this deck was that bad. Pretty average deck, probably 4 3s on average, 3 3s on average. But we got the lower end of the spectrum today with another 1-3 run. Never super fun to get that, but it does happen. So that is going to end today's draft. And that's going to end today's video. Well, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It'll tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feed. If you'd like to hang out with me live, you can check out the Twitch channel with the link in the description below, and you can check out the Patreon link in the description below if you'd like to support the channel directly. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.